You're clean, aren't you? Except for your tower. You're a tower junkie, Roland.
Hello and welcome to Tower Junkies, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. If this is your first time listening, Tower Junkies is a podcast celebrating the work of Stephen King with an occasional focus on his magnum opus, the Dark Tower series. We discuss the themes, characters, and mythology of the series in Palaver episodes, and review the books and comic series in Kef episodes. We also discuss non-Tower King novels, TV and film adaptations of King's work, and the latest news about all things that serve the King. You can find more of our work at TowerJunkiesPod.com, and you can follow us on every level of social media at Tower Junkies Pod. In addition to that, you can throw your support to us on Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, where at the rates of $1 and $2 per month, you get access to an exclusive RSS feed recorded specifically for Patreon supporters. And then at the $5 level, you get that, as well as commentary tracks that I record. And also at the $10 level, you get all of that, plus early access and unreleased episodes of each of our podcasts. Once again, that's at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. And yeah, so I'm one of your hosts, Matt Hurt, and with me today, as usual, is Tiny.
Yellow.
Hi, Tiny. How's it going?
It's going good, man.
Nice. You just made a very, very big announcement on Patreon.
That I did.
Do you want to keep that at Patreon and then make it so that people have to pay? Do you want to put your big announcement behind the paywall, essentially?
Yeah, you got to give us $1 if you want to know.
Yes. Or you just want to say
No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to be a father.
Yes, Tiny is going to be a daddy. Yeah, that's super exciting.
Yes, I am very excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, find out more information on Patreon. That's what we'll keep behind the paywall.
Oh, yeah.
Does he want to have a boy or a girl? What is his child's first Stephen King book going to be?
Is it actually mine?
Is it actually yours? Oh, God. So, that's awesome. So, officially on the podcast, congratulations, Tiny.
Thanks, buddy.
Super excited for you, and can't wait to make as many just stupid jokes.
No, I've already been practicing my dad jokes.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, I told, I made a stupid dad joke, and Paige was like, "Have you been practicing these?" I was like, "Oh, I'm practicing a lot of dad things," and I just sent her a screenshot of like the most basic New Balance tennis shoes in my Amazon cart, and she was like, "No."
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
God, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm not. That was a joke. I'm not actually.
Yeah. Sure.
Nothing wrong with New Balance. Nothing against them. It's just.
Right.
Yeah.
That's super exciting.
Yeah.
So find out more on Patreon. And so today on the show, Tiny, this is a big episode.
'Tis.
Because we are finally finishing up our 8-episode review series on all things concerning The Stand.
Yeah.
In all its forms. So today on the show, we're going to be reviewing episodes 7 through 9 of the CBS All-Access The Stand miniseries, which premiered in 2020, late 2020, December 2020. Jesus. We're going to be reviewing The Walk, The Stand, and The Circle Closes. And I'm super excited about this because we're finally going to be like free to do other things. And also just for context, just for nostalgia, I guess. It's just kind of crazy to me because I was thinking about this. We've been covering The Stand since, in terms of recorded audio, sitting down and recording these episodes, we have been doing this project since April 2nd of 2020.
Damn.
And it is nuts to me. Wow. Before, as of this recording, we have released 11 hours worth of content about The Stand.
Yeah. In
The Stand miniseries. Plural. And so it's just nuts to me because I went back and listened to all those episodes because I'm a narcissist. But just thinking about all of the things that have happened in that event, in that time frame, like we started in April when we were under quarantine for coronavirus and the pandemic and everything, and we resumed it for part 2 in June, which was even deeper into all of that. Mm-hmm. We've gone through more pandemic stuff, an election, fucking insurrection.
Right.
One of the hosts getting fucking COVID.
Yeah.
And it's just it's nuts. And then now one of the hosts being impending fatherhood.
Right.
So yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot of time and a lot of content. So
when you put it like that,
yeah,
it's crazy. That's a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Well, I mean, the audiobook is over 20 hours, right?
Oh, it's like 40 something.
Is it that long? Jesus.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then the 90s miniseries was 6 hours.
Something like that, yeah.
6-7 hours, and then this was 9 hours.
Yeah.
That's a lot of content. I mean, even if you're breaking it up over 8 podcasts.
Yes.
I mean, it's a lot of stuff.
It is a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So on that note, do you want to get into Stephen King check-ins?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any check-ins?
Yeah, I can't remember if I said this last time or if I had done this last time, but I have finished reading Apt Pupil.
You did, yeah.
I did, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't gotten any further than that lately.
Okay.
I am reading a new book.
Oh, nice.
But it's not King. It's called Friends Divided.
Oh, that's right. About the Founding Fathers something.
It's about the election of 1802. The one where John Adams was the incumbent and lost to Thomas Jefferson.
Okay, I do think I remember that from Hamilton.
Yes, yeah, because they're really good friends and they were running against each other and it got ugly and stuff like that. So, it's written by Gordon Wood, which makes me think of Good Will Hunting.
Oh,
the famous,
is he one of the book people that they were referencing?
Yeah, like one of the famous bar scenes. He's like next year you'll probably be in here regurgitating Gordon Wood or whatever.
Oh, that's right.
And I've never read any Gordon Wood before, but it's written by him.
Depending on how far you are into this, I'm sorry. Would you read more? I don't know. Stupid.
Yeah, so far I'm like 7 hours into it. I think it's 18 or 20 hours. It's all just been like set up, and he hasn't even gotten to the actual election yet. So, which I kind of wasn't expecting. It's like all of it's stuff I've really heard before because We've
all seen Hamilton, Gordon.
Right.
Come on.
I read the John Adams book, the famous one by McCullough.
Yeah.
David McCullough.
Yeah.
And then I think it's American Lion. Is that the big?
Is that Andrew Jackson?
Is that Andrew Jackson, or am I thinking of something else?
I don't.
That might be a different president. Anyways, I read the big Thomas Jefferson biography, but it was like a long time ago, so it's kind of stuff that I've heard before already. But
I think American Lion is Jefferson.
Is it?
I think. I don't know. I might be confusing that with I think
because I think that's Ron Chernow.
Maybe
who wrote Hamilton to the internet. Yes,
I think I want to say that the one that I was thinking of was what president did I say that I thought it was? Andrew Jackson, I think that one's like American Sphinx or something like that.
You might be right. Yeah. And actually American Lion is Thomas. Or no, that's Andrew Jackson.
Oh, okay.
So I was wrong. And it's John Meacham that wrote that one. I don't know. I can't remember what it's called now because I read it like 12 years ago. The big Thomas Jefferson biography. So, but anyways, yeah, it's kind of stuff I've heard before so far. But I'm looking forward to when he actually gets to the whole them campaigning against each other. That'll be interesting.
So, I bet.
Yeah. So, anyways, do you have any King check-ins, sir?
I do. I just want to say, look forward to our our spinoff podcast.
How you like them apples?
We the people. Oh, okay.
Because Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, gotcha. We're not doing another podcast, by the way. That was
We're
a joke.
not. Please,
unless,
God,
Tiny.
No. Oh my God. No, hard no.
Okay, that's fine. But to bring it back to Stephen King, who has never been president.
Yet.
I do have a few check-ins. I'm going to keep these brief.
Okay.
I just want to say, since we're like celebrating the end of our Stand review series, kind of a tease for what's to come. I think on the docket we have the long-awaited Misery review that we'll be doing at some point. I think for that one, did we agree to do a novel and movie review separate or together?
I really like the idea of the combo.
Okay,
doing both
me too.
of them. I just think it's fun to bounce back and forth, and because they're both really good too. That's the other thing. Yeah.
Yes, so we'll do that, and we're also going to do that same thing with The Outsider, I believe. But then also, Tiny, we've got a palaver coming up with our top 19 Stephen King adaptations.
I gotta get to work on that one.
Yes, me too. That's one of the reasons why, and this folds into my check-in, I started watching The Outsider on HBO.
Yeah.
Because I re-listened to the book just on a whim. And the book grew on me, and I'm really digging the miniseries. I've only watched 2 episodes of it, but it really makes me want to get back into watching Ozark, oddly enough.
God, you gotta watch that show.
I know.
It's so good.
I watched the first season and really liked it. And then the reason why I equate that to here is that Jason Bateman, obviously, but Bateman, he directed the first 2 episodes of The Outsider.
Yeah.
And like, just something about that opening sequence of the second episode where it's basically Ralph going into the lockup to meet with Terry. And it's just the process of him like arriving at the jail, going through like a kind of a back entrance, being greeted by a guard, going through like a back entrance, going in, putting his gun in the little lockbox thing, and being
Wanded, basically.
Wanded, yeah. I kept wanting to say X-rayed. Wanded for metal and all that, and weapons, and then going into and sitting down and talking to Terry. Like, that sequence, the way that it's shot and the way that it's filmed, it's like, it's beautiful. Like, and it is so, like, just gripping and has this, like, subtle intensity to it. And so, like, the whole time I was watching, I was like, fuck. Like, I was like, what else has Jason Bateman directed? And, like, he's directed, like, 10 episodes of Ozark. So I'm like, I need to get back into watching Ozark.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think it's in one of the episodes he directed, there's a slow motion scene. I don't want to spoil anything. There's a slow motion scene. I don't know if you've gotten to that point yet, but
I believe I have. Well, yeah, I definitely have, because he directed the first 2 episodes, and those are the, like, he didn't direct any more episodes.
Okay.
I do believe I know what scene you're referring to. Okay. I think.
Like outside the courthouse?
Yes, yep.
Yeah. That blew me away, and I was like, holy shit, Jason Bateman directed this episode. He crushed that part as far as I'm concerned. So.
Absolutely. And even like that first episode, the kind of opening sequence where they find where the body is found.
Yeah.
Like
really cool lighting.
Very cool lighting, and I think I don't know what it was, but like I think coming off of watching The Stand, I was just like, oh, this is an HBO show. Like, they are not shying away from the gore on this.
Yeah.
Like, I actually paused it and was like, oh my god, this is intense. I'm very much into this right now. But yeah, so I'll obviously report back on that when we actually cover it.
Yeah, that was a little teaser of our review.
Yes. Other check-ins, I started reading Everything's Eventual, which I'll talk about at a later. Well, I won't. I'll check Twitter. Also, the Stand soundtrack is available to stream. Which, as much as I'm gonna lambast this fucking miniseries in this review, I think the music was amazing.
Yes.
What else? Other things that are coming up on the podcast. I think we're going to do a hard case crime review series. So the Colorado Kid, Joyland, and then the forthcoming later novel that's coming out in a few weeks. So that's on the docket as well. That's all I got for check-ins and everything.
Sweet.
I do have a few news items that I'll run through real quick if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So, news. I don't know how much this is really worth talking about, but screw it. I'll nix that. The only thing that I'll bring up is Creepshow, the Shudder original series based on the George A. Romero movie from 1982, and which was written and had Stephen King in it, co-written. He wrote 1 or 2 of the stories, I think. It has officially been renewed for season 3.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and season 2 hasn't premiered yet. Season 2 is I believe season 2 is supposed to be last year, but COVID. So season 2 is going to premiere on April 1st, and then season 3 is actually going to come later this year. So probably October, I think.
Okay.
And I think, fingers crossed, we're going to try to do a review series on that later in the year. by like October, I think that'll be like an October run of episodes for us.
Okay.
And and I want to try to get. He already said that he was interested in it, but I want to try to get Mike on board for those.
Okay.
From Obsessive Viewer, and As Good as It Gets.
Sweet.
Yeah, and then also, this is something. Marilyn Manson. Have you heard?
Yeah, he's had some bad press lately.
He has, and
Deservedly so.
yes, and not to say I told you so, but I did reference in another episode that Evan Rachel Wood gave an impassioned testimony detailing the abuse that she suffered without naming him specifically. But she did recently announce like that, like, hey, he was my abuser and everything, and you know, I'm all like that's great. It's great that he is kind of being taken to task for that. And I commend her for coming forward and everything, because that's, I mean, because she was talking about how she feared for her safety. Like, that's why she never announced, like, who he was. Yeah. Who her abuser was. But, to tie it back to Stephen King and to Creepshow specifically, he was going to be in an episode of Creepshow. Okay. Like, he was in an episode of season 2 that's going to premiere. And, they cut, like, after that news broke, they were like, nope, he's not going to be in it anymore. Like, we're going to,
wow.
I don't know the specifics, but I want to say that they scrapped the entire episode, maybe?
Holy crap.
Something like that, but a headline that I read that I was really, I really dug. Greg Nicotero is the showrunner of Creepshow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And have you seen any of Creepshow, by the way?
I haven't seen any of it, no.
Man.
I've dabbled with getting a Shudder subscription just to run through it real quick, but yeah. Maybe I will once, because we finish The Stand.
Yes. Yeah. As a sneak peek to our review series on that, I want to do... So there are 3 Creepshow movies, quote unquote. Creepshow, Creepshow 2, and then Creepshow 3. Creepshow 3 is from like 2006 and is like it is... Apparently, I haven't seen it, but I've heard it is garbage, just terrible, like not even worth it. Wow. So I think for the review series, instead of subjecting ourselves to that, I want to do a review of Creepshow, Creepshow 2, and then Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, which Stephen King has said is like the spiritual Creepshow 3, essentially.
Okay, gotcha.
And then I originally wanted to do like, okay, we'll break up season 1 of Creepshow into 2 episodes, covering half of the season, everything, but... No, it's like, no, we're going to have 3 seasons of the show. So we're going to do a season by season review on each one, make it easier and everything. Cool. So look forward to that later in the year, around October, I think. So anyway, to bring it back to the Marilyn Manson thing, Greg Nicotero had said that Creepshow decided to pull the Marilyn Manson episode in about 4 seconds. Like it took 4 seconds for them to decide to just scrap it.
Oh shit, that's funny.
So I just appreciated that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So links to all that in the show notes, and then before we get on to our reviews, I do have a couple of corrections. First of all, I had mispronounced I'm going to mispronounce it again. Jovan Adepo, who played Larry. That's probably closer to the correct pronunciation. I called him Jovan.
I may have pushed you in that direction.
No, I think it was opposite.
Really?
I think yeah.
Okay.
And then also, last episode I mentioned like we've dissected this text, we've read this book, we've covered it over 3 episodes. We know so much about this story. So Teddy Wyzak, I had mentioned, I don't think he's a character in the book. He is totally in the book.
Really?
Yeah, and not only is he in the book, he's also in the Mick Garris miniseries. He's the character that Stephen King plays. So,
oh my god!
So we appreciate you guys listening to us talk about Stephen King with so much authority.
Give us your money for our expert opinions.
Yes, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. So those corrections out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into our reviews. Are you ready?
Let's.
Okay, awesome. So,
Stu, important about the dosage. Take 3 or 4 of those at once. It's liable to be fatal. You got me, East Texas?
Yeah, I get you.
It's been a pleasure getting to know you.
I wish I could say the same.
I didn't mean it when I said it.
We're going to review episode 7, The Walk. The Walk originally aired on January 28th, 2021, a mere 12 days after Tiny's birthday.
Oh my god, that has to stop.
I know. I promise it's the last one. The plot for The Walk is, after tragedy strikes the Boulder Free Zone, Mother Abigail tasks members of her committee with a dangerous mission. Meanwhile, Harold and Nadine begin their journey to New Vegas to unite with Flag and claim their reward. Okay, so let's do this. So, Tiny, overall thoughts on episode 7, The Walk.
This was a good episode. There's some... in a way, there's some things I liked about the episode a lot. Mm-hmm. I still like the interaction with the 4 people who have to go to Vegas. Mm-hmm. Glenn and Stu and Ray and Larry. Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed some of that, and then I really enjoyed the direction and the evolution of what happened with Nadine.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I thought that was fairly well done. Mm-hmm. I'll say I liked. I'm totally blanking on her name. The actress
Amber Heard.
Amber Heard. Thank you. Mm-hmm. I liked what she did, and I liked some of the direction they took her character in, but the path was a little rocky.
Okay.
And, anyways, there were things to like about the episode. I'll put it that way. Yeah. Nice.
This is not the worst episode of this batch of episodes that we're going to be reviewing.
Right.
It did do a fairly good job of showcasing basically bridging the gap between Explosion in Boulder and Arrival at Vegas. Like that's the mark of this episode, is that's what that is serving.
Yeah.
And it did a good job of that. And I do agree. I liked some of the stuff that they did with Nadine and Flag. There's an interesting choice. I'll just say it here. It's what kind of ends the episode, is that she doesn't see herself as she is post flagging.
Right.
And I thought on paper that is a very interesting angle. But literally everything else in this miniseries, it doesn't have like a connection to what she was before encountering Flag.
It doesn't have the foundation.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the iRobot. It doesn't have the Dune. It doesn't have the foundation.
Nice.
So dumb. But it doesn't have that foundation. Like she's not depicted as someone who, like, if they had established her as a character that uses her sexuality or uses her, like, it has like a specific vanity or something, like I could see that working, but like every other character, she doesn't have hardly any character development.
Right.
So yeah, but anyway, and I do just want to say that the makeup effects of her like ghoulish appearance at the end just felt a little dicey.
Oh, really? You didn't like that?
I didn't. Okay. I just thought like it didn't look like the showstopper end of episode reveal that it should have been.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I was fully on board with that, actually.
Nice.
That's one of my favorite parts of the episode. Okay. And especially the 3 people, Larry, Ray, and Glenn, their reactions to that.
Yeah.
I thought were really effective. And just, I thought the whole thing you were talking about where she doesn't see herself was a really interesting creative choice to make. And I actually respect it a lot. I thought it was effective and interesting. It was just, I wasn't expecting it. And I think it was a pretty big contrast from the 90s miniseries and the book. The 90s, I prefer what, I can't remember the actress's name, who portrayed her and that I think she did a really good job.
Oh, me too.
But my favorite part of her performance was once she had consummated her marriage to Randall Flagg, she was just dead inside and just a completely wrecked human being, and she portrayed that incredibly well. And I do prefer that performance to this one. But it was so out of left field and so not what I was expecting that I actually ended up really liking what they did with what them and Amber Heard did with the character. And
nice.
She was like, I just thought it was so interesting how she's walking around this glowing blonde hair and just gorgeous as she can be. But in reality, she was this horrid looking ghoulish woman. The pregnancy was wrecking her. And again, just the three people reacting to that, I was like, holy crap, that was nuts. And it really worked for me.
Nice.
But, yeah, I didn't have the same reaction with the makeup effects. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're wrong, but
yeah, I don't know. It didn't work for me. I agree that it was a very unique choice, and I respect them doing something unique and not being kind of chained to the book or to the other miniseries, because that is an interesting choice. So I don't know, just the makeup effects didn't work for me.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fine.
But before we backtrack to earlier in the chronology, did you hear the music cue that hit when they arrived at New Vegas?
Was it Larry's song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Baby, Can You Dig Your Man?
Right, yeah.
And on the soundtrack, they have the full song
that
they did. And I've got to say, to use like TikTok vernacular and what's the other what are those kids called? Gen Z? I don't know.
Oh, Zennials, Gen Z.
Yeah, Gen Z.
Just Gen
we'll
Z.
We'll call them Gen Z. This song slaps a little bit.
It do be slapping.
Yeah,
it do be hitting different.
And I do want to mention, so the song doesn't use the lyrics that are in the book. Because in the book it's like, baby, can you dig your man? He's a righteous man. Which is fine, but something I found really interesting is the lyrics that they put into that. Like my snarky thing is like the lyrics of the song have more subtext than the actual show. Because it's a pretty simple, straightforward song, but part of the lyrics are, sacrifice in my dreams, do you know what it means? It's like I love that because it relates directly to The Stand.
Yeah.
But also, they barely showed any of the characters' fucking dreams in the miniseries.
Right. I know.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But anyway, let's go back to the beginning of the episode. Let's do this non-linearly because it's such a proven method.
Right.
No. But, so, in the hospital, we get... I do want to just highlight this scene with Mother Abigail giving the instructions. I thought that was a very well done scene. It was really really good. I don't know. I really liked her death scene in particular. It was just great with the candle burning out.
Yeah.
I thought that was just beautifully done. How did you feel about this kind of pivotal scene?
I thought it was actually pretty effective too. Nice. And I don't know if it was Whoopi Goldberg or the writing or what all it was, but it landed really well, I think. And I think it was much more bleak, than like the 90s miniseries or even in the book. Because I think, maybe I'm misremembering, but in the book and in the 90s miniseries, I think it's a little less somber and a little less terrifying, intimidating, I guess. What she's telling them to do. It's much more inspired, I guess.
Yeah.
Inspirational. Whereas in this, it was kind of gloom and doom, how she was saying it. It was very like fire and brimstone, and but that it was effective. I thought it was a really cool choice. So I agree. I actually liked that scene a lot, and it was a good send off for Whoopi Goldberg because she had next to nothing to do in this whole fucking. In
her like fourth scene in the entire miniseries, it's real good.
Right. Yeah.
I want to say that I'm exaggerating, but I don't fucking think I am.
Not by much.
Yeah.
Maybe her 7th, 8th scene, really, where she has like more than one speaking line.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. It was a good send off and stuff. Another thing that was in the news or something I heard somewhere or whatever is that she wanted to be Mother Abigail in like the 90s.
Oh, really?
Like she was gunning for that role. So like there's a really good interview she does on one of the late night shows where she talks about how much she wanted to be Mother Abigail and now she gets to be Mother Abigail.
Huh.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. But
that's cool.
I will say that another problem, like a kind of a recurring problem with this miniseries, is kind of one of the next scenes after her death scene is Fran and Stu. I almost called him Stewie, like Family Guy. Jesus,
Stewie.
Stewie. I don't know why, but I've been thinking about this randomly, but like there's like one specific scene in Family Guy that I remember you getting a huge kick out of when we watched it like at work or something.
Yeah.
But when Matthew McConaughey comes to their house, it's like, I'm looking for someone named Stewie. And he like shoots an arrow at him or something. He's like, ow!
Ow! Yeah, that for whatever reason, that physical
dumb.
comedy just got me in the funny bone.
So dumb.
I remember it, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so I kind of feel like the strength of the Mother Abigail scene is just completely kind of subverted or undercut in the scene with Fran and Stu. And I don't know, I rewatched it today and I don't really have this harsh of an opinion about it, but I think it is still a problem just in the greater scope of things. A recurring problem is that the way that they talk about, like the way that they talk about being pieces for Mother Abigail, like, Fran is like, do you think she was the voice of God? And he's like, well, I don't know. And then she's like, well, do you think that we're pieces for him? And, the people on Flagside are pieces for, the other guy? Is that what's going on? It's like, why are you saying this out loud? Screenwriters, don't tell us things. Show us them. Like, let subtext exist. Let us, like, infer the meaning that you're getting at. Don't fucking have characters just say, hey, do you think this is what's going on? That God is controlling Mother Abigail and is having a good faction, and that there's a bad faction that we have to go stand up to in Vegas that's led by Flag, but is the embodiment of evil and Satan? Is that what's going on here, guys? Like, fucking shit.
Fucking A.
Yes.
I agree.
God damn it.
Yeah.
So strap in because we're going to get a lot more yelling done.
Yeah.
So I don't
agree.
know. Yeah. So that bothered me.
And just further issues with Odessa Young and James Marsden having like very little chemistry.
Yeah.
Which again, I don't necessarily blame them because I don't think I know they didn't have much to work with.
Right.
And they fucking don't even have a lot of scenes together.
No.
I mean, they really don't. I do not buy their relationship at all. It's like it feels forced in this.
It really does.
This adaptation.
It does. And kind of to that point, to leapfrog off of that point, anytime the characters, like the committee members, have scenes together, like this goes back to a few episodes ago when Fran approaches Larry about breaking into Harold's house, and then even Larry having a scene with Glenn in the hospital and everything. It's like these people are talking. It's like we have not adequately seen them interacting together as a group. We've seen them interacting as a group, but it's been so piecemealed and separate from other things that we don't get that foundation or that iRobot or that Dune. Or that Expanse.
Nice.
I started the fifth book of the Expanse, by the way.
Oh, sweet.
So fucking good. But anyway,
Nice.
yeah, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
But then again, the goodbye scene worked for me too. So I don't know where I'm landing on this.
Yeah.
Did you not like the kind of goodbye scene and the weird, like, oh, let's take a picture of everyone together because they're marching off to their death, but let's make a sweet moment where they smile for the camera.
It was somewhat touching, but again, it's so hard to buy it.
Yeah.
To buy into it because of the poor decision making and poor storytelling up to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know I don't have to blame the actors because when the writing is okay or good, they do a great job and I'm really into it. But it's like 1 or 2 scenes per episode.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If that.
Yep.
So I know it's not the actors.
Yeah. One thing is for sure, Tiny. Kojak. Good boy?
Oh, without question.
Yeah, he's a good boy.
Yeah.
Do you like Kojak better than your dog Gizmo?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you have to say that because he's a listener. So anyway, that's Dumb. So the titular walk. Let's talk about the walk. I loved it. Like that was a high point of the episode, that montage of them walking.
Yeah.
I thought was beautiful.
Good music again.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Because I tweeted this, and okay, I'm just gonna say it. So I like the montage of them walking. It's very picturesque, and it shows a variety of the different layouts, landscapes.
Yeah.
Which one of us works more outdoors? Pop quiz. The landscapes and everything, the different weather and everything.
Yeah.
Also, just like the increasing amount of like crows that you see throughout it.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
You didn't notice that?
No.
Oh yeah, like almost. It's interesting because it's like it starts out you don't really see the crows. I think. And then as the montage goes on, as the music keeps playing and stuff, like you see more and more crows that are just kind of standing around and flying around and watching them. It's very cool. And like the song, to your point, a great song choice. I'm not really a music guy, but the song was Radiohead. The song is I Promise.
Yeah.
And very great song. But in my notes, I have should have used a Counting Crows song.
Nice.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Although none of them were named Mr. Jones, so.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, and none of them, to my knowledge, were colorblind.
That's Counting Crows, right?
Mr. Jones?
Mr. Jones and me.
I have a theory about that song.
Do you?
It's not a theory. It's more of a headcanon for me. But my interpretation of that song is that it is actually about the relationship between Ripley on the Nostromo from Alien and the cat Jones, and this is the song that she is inventing the song while she's in hypersleep at the end of Alien.
Fucking dork.
Mr. Jones and me were the only ones left on the Nostromo. I don't know any of the other lyrics.
Oh my God, you dork. Have you actually thought about that before, or did you just come up with that?
No. I've thought about it before. I have posted it on Reddit.
Neither answer would surprise me. Oh my God.
There's also another theory I have that Fall Out Boy's Church from their Mania album is about Winston Churchill. Because if you were Church, I'd get on my knees. So they're just saying like they are just they worship at the ground of Winston Churchill.
Okay.
So anyway, it's a really good montage.
Let's move on.
Yes. And
but yeah, I did connect with that as well. Good visuals and everything in that part. I agree.
Yeah. Speaking of which, the director of this episode and the next episode was Stephen King alum of directorship, Vincenzo Natali, who directed In the Tall Grass.
Okay, gotcha.
And to that point, the visuals, like there's a scene that stood out to me in that montage. I think it's at the end of that montage where the camera just like it's panning and we're seeing them in the background kind of walking, and then it kind of stops at the rotted corpse of a person on the ground, and then it zooms into the eye socket and then transitions into the next scene. I just thought that was just very cool visuals.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totes.
But let's backtrack a little bit because we're going to kind of, you'll see. Harold and Nadine, they're on their motorcycles.
Yep.
And Harold takes a fall.
Show did.
Yes. How'd you feel about how that played out?
Pretty good. I mean, good depiction. It's pretty graphic. Again, visually kind of impressive where it looks like they actually threw somebody off a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So it looks good.
Yeah. I agree. I like the effect of him being impaled.
Yeah.
And coughing up blood. Very, very grotesque. Really good. And him, when he takes out the notebook and he starts writing, that made me think, and then also when he took out the payday bar and started eating it, I was thinking like, man, I wish that his writing was more prevalent in the miniseries.
Yes.
As it was in the book. His and Fran's writing, because the whole, like her suspicion in the book that he's up to something is that he leaves like a smudge of a thumbprint from a candy bar on her diary.
That's right. Yeah.
And like all we get of Fran writing is Fran writing to her child,
Right.
and everything, which is fine.
Yeah, it's good writing. Like I've actually enjoyed that part of the show, but yeah, it's few and far between, and it's sort of disjointed, I guess.
Yeah,
That's how I put it. But yeah, when he pulls out his little notebook and scribbles in his kind of final thoughts, I thought that was a very good end cap for the character, and how
Me too.
he was really prescient in that moment and was able to contextualize his death. Like, it's a very Harold moment.
Yep.
I think highly intellectual moment, and
absolutely
written well. I really enjoyed that part.
Me too. And I just want to say, Owen Teague, one of the MVPs of this miniseries,
without question. He did a fantastic job up until the end. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And then we get a little bit later, we get the group coming up to him and meeting him.
Yeah.
The visual effects of his the makeup effects and everything of his rotting corpse and everything, fucking great.
I appreciated it. Yeah, it was really good. Unsettling.
Yep. But again, I have trouble with it because like, okay, first, Ray Brentner doesn't... that character, I don't remember Ralph Brentner that well from the book. I remember some things, but, whatever. Or the miniseries. But this, it's kind of a weird kind of double-edged sword that this character plays in this miniseries, because she is extremely, like, outspoken and very... She's kind of the hardened person of the group. Right, so like, fuck him. Like, we're not going to leave, like, we're not going to cover his corpse and everything because, he fucking murdered Nick and everyone else. Like, no.
Right.
And like, that hard acidness is really good, I guess. And it's a good counterbalance to the compassion of Larry. But also during the stand, like the actual stand in the next episode, like, she does the Ralph Brentner, like, I'm scared of pain and stuff, and it seems like there's not like an organic way to connect those two character traits. Yeah,
that's a choice they made with that character that I don't think. I'm not sure if I didn't like it or if it just didn't work.
Which one?
The fact that she like has this badassness about her, and that she's kind of confrontational, and stuff like that. Because I feel like Ralph Brentner in the book is very. Like, he and Nick were very tight, and he was like, he was almost like Nick's interpreter, if you will.
Yeah.
And he was very kind and gentle, and like any kind of violence or conflict, he kind of closed it on himself and kind of locked up, and very, very different from the Ray Brentner in the show.
Right. Which is why, like, in the book, when he does that whole, like, I'm afraid of pain, and Larry's comforting him as they're about to be, like, crucified and stuff, like, that works very well. And then
totally
in the miniseries, it's like it's like they don't know what to do with the character because, okay, the book says this, but let's also make her kind of a badass or kind of a hard ass, and then not do anything to reconcile those two, like, openly conflicting character traits. It's really annoying.
Yeah. There was a little joke at one point where I'm probably doing a poor paraphrase of it, but the other three characters like come to Ray and they're like, "Well, can you tell us like what water we should drink and like kind of lead the way and find a trail?" And she says something kind of like,
one engine girl is going to be able to find
exactly
water that's not going to make you have diarrhea,
right? And they were like,
"Of course I can."
They were like, "Well, can't you?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, of course I can." But that was actually kind of funny. I mean, it was sort of an easy joke to make. But, the delivery, I guess, worked out pretty well. Especially James Marsden was like, "Well, can you?" Like, I actually liked that kind of.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, kind of an easy writing, I guess, but...
Yeah. So I don't think we have much else to say about this episode, but just to kind of close it out, what did you think of Nadine's actual encounter with Flag? Like, the consummation of their long gestating relationship and marriage.
I thought it was fine.
Them having sex.
Right. I thought it was fine. I think... I wanted it to be a little more disturbing because I feel like in the book, one of the most disturbing sentences in the whole book for me is when I think I'm paraphrasing here, but I think it's something along the lines of when Nadine saw what he had for her, she screamed and didn't stop screaming or something like that. And I was like, oh God, because you know, it's crazy monster sex. Like that sounds it just sounded disturbing. And I'm
not gonna make that. I'm not gonna.
Please don't contain yourself, sir. But it was really effective in the book, and you know, I keep coming to the same caveat when you talk about the '90s miniseries. But if you can put aside the campiness, I think it was pretty scary and pretty effective. Their consummation scene was disturbing, and they did a pretty good job with it. And I'm not saying that this version wasn't effective or that it sucked. I'm not saying that at all. I just feel like it wasn't as effective as it could have been, and I wanted them to take it even further. I feel like CBS All-Access, when it comes to this and then the Twilight Zone, they've really wanted to amplify the fact that this is TVMA and that they can go a little further if they need to, and they were just as edgy as HBO, and I feel like they really pumped the brakes on this scene and could have taken it a lot further.
I agree. The problem that I kind of had with it was that they held back the kind of monster imagery of Flag like way too long. Like it was just Alexander Skarsgård going to town and being aggressive and everything, which is disturbing in its own way, in a big way, obviously. And like her saying like something's wrong, something's not right, and everything. That's disturbing. But then like we get a very short shot of him transforming into a monster, and I kind of feel like that should have been the focus of the scene. Should have been, like you said, that line in the book when she saw what he had, she screamed and never stopped screaming or whatever.
Right.
That should have been where the focus was, but instead we just get, you know, Alexander Skarsgård. And, like the imagery of the monster version of him was creepy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah. So
it was fine.
Yeah, it was fine.
It was fine. I can't remember in the book. Was there? Didn't she like walk the rest of the way to Vegas?
Oh, I don't know.
Or did he send somebody to pick her up? I can't remember.
I want to say it was maybe one of those two. I don't know if she walked the rest of the way. I don't know.
I can't remember either. But I sort of like what they did in the book or in this series where he kind of appears with the cool muscle car and drives her the rest of the way.
Yeah.
That was fine. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Decent imagery.
I agree, and I just remembered we did not talk about Stu's fall.
We didn't, yeah.
How'd you feel about the fall of Stu?
My favorite part about it was when they decide to move on and carry on, and his little conversation with Glenn.
Me too.
Greg Kinnear was probably MVP number 2 in my opinion.
Same.
As badly as they have fucked up that character, just hang tight, folks.
Yes, hang tight.
Yeah. As poor a job as the writers did, he was a perfect Glenn Bateman.
He
which
really was.
I had all the faith that he would be, but I wish they had written a better character for him. But
me too.
That scene was really touching.
Yeah, I love that, just the camaraderie between them, and when he's like
how they understand each other.
Yes, like I don't know, it breaks my heart a little bit when he says like, you know, just so you know, any more than the recommended dosage, it could be fatal. And then all he says is, "You get me, East Texas?" Yeah. And something about that just like really just struck a nerve with me in a good way, like that, because that just like that comfortable likeness between them, is great. And then they ended on kind of a little joke where they're like, you know, it was a pleasure to meet you, and it was a pleasure to get to know you. And it's like, I wish I could say the same. It's like I would watch an entire miniseries of just these two. I know. Like, God, but no, we've got like 5 scenes with them, but whatever.
Yeah.
So that was solid. Again, I think a big part of the not failings, but one of the issues that I haven't really talked that well. I've talked a bit about, is that the visual effects and the special effects weren't really up to snuff for me. Like it just seemed like that set just seemed off.
So much like a set.
Yes.
It didn't feel natural at all.
Just completely, like, obviously CGI and everything, and just, it felt just really it took me out of the scene.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. It kind of reminded me a little bit of my problems with the scenes where Flag is tempting the characters in his little place.
Oh, his little desert area.
That looks like a scene from it looks like the fake boulders in the original Star Trek series whenever they go to Earth or go to another planet.
See, I feel differently about that because it's a dream.
Yeah, that's fair.
Dream state.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But this scene with Stu's fall wasn't up to snuff visually for me.
I agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and then finally the last part, the ride into Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I ever remember his name? So I figured out why I confuse Lloyd and Harold's name so much. I think in my head, I hear Harold and Lloyd, and it's like Harold Lloyd, like that old comic actor from the silent era.
Okay.
I don't know, something in that just jumbles it. But Lloyd arrives with a limo and brings them into town, into Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you feel about their ride into Vegas?
Yeah, it was fine. It was a little uneventful, I think.
Yeah.
And in the book, Lloyd isn't actually there.
Right.
I think it's Grogan.
Yeah, Drogan.
Drogan,
I
whatever.
think is his name.
Yeah. Brings him in.
Which we talked about in the book review, and I liked, and I think I can't confirm this, but I want to say that the character that rides into Boulder with the crucifix wounds and stuff, I think that in the script and everything, he was that character. He was Drogan.
Oh, okay.
Which fine.
Huh, okay.
But yeah, it was fine. I liked the shots of Vegas, the Strip, desolate and everything. Something that I'll talk about more in the next review. But I thought it was interesting that they had just video displays of Flag just saying this indoctrinating kind of thing.
Propaganda recordings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting choice.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that later.
Was this... this is where they were rolling down the Strip and there's a statue of him, right?
Yeah.
As Julius Caesar or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little over the top in my book.
Yeah.
But it was interspersed with some nice visual cues, some good visual work in regards to visual storytelling where there's people being kind of whipped, admonished, basically slaves.
Beaten with bats and stuff. Yeah.
Right. There's violence happening in the streets and there's slaves who are supposed to be doing work and they get, kicked in the back and say, get back to work. And it's disturbing. And that was effective, but then it was interspersed with a ridiculous looking cartoonish statue of Alexander Skarsgård as Julius Caesar.
The statue didn't do any didn't bother me.
Oh really?
Honestly,
I thought it was just over the top and silly because what they calling a fucking stonemason to carve a goddamn statue?
Right?
Are you kidding me? I don't know. It was just goofy.
Yeah,
I'm not that bent out of shape about it. Really, it's just it jumped out at me. Really, they made that choice? Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know, another thing, and maybe it's a budget thing, but also there's no one there either. We see them at the statue and the people in the street being beaten and everything, and it's not I don't know, it seems like it should have been a little bit more filled in, I guess.
Yeah.
Also we see just brief shots of the people hanging on the crucifix and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is cool, but I have a problem that we'll talk about in the next review.
Okay.
So, having said that, is that our review of The Walk?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, we are going to go ahead and review Episode 8, The Stand.
Your hand's shaking, Lloyd.
I ain't shaking.
You never done it before, right?
Shut up!
Killed a man. You don't have to start now. I'm not begging for my life, mind you. I'm begging for yours.
Okay. If you don't stop talking, I'm gonna have to put a bullet through you.
The fault, dear Brutus, is in our stars, not in ourselves.
What do you mean?
You don't have to do this.
Why are you saying that?
You can stop this. Just look in the camera. Tell these people what I already know, that without your fear, he's nothing. He's seen him. He knows this guy. Without your adulation, he's nothing, Lloyd. Look at the camera and tell these people what I already know, that he's nothing without you. I don't know any better.
All right, this episode originally aired February 4th, 2021 on CBS All-Access, and the plot is risking everything, the Boulder travelers face off with Flag's followers in New Vegas, among them a very different and pregnant Nadine. My notes for the like is not like I had a plethora of notes for the first episode, and then next to like just very brief notes for this episode, because after a certain point in this episode, I just stopped taking notes because I was like fuming.
Is this the worst episode?
Yeah,
I think
so.
it is.
Yeah.
Most frustrating at the very least.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of The Stand?
Again, kind of mixed. I feel like I have to. I don't know. I feel like I want to focus on the good things at the beginning because I'm just going to shit on it a lot. But
yeah.
The conclusion I thought was kind of cool, and they did a few things. Again, there's some things to like about it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it was there was a scene in particular.
Yes.
Across 9 episodes that I was looking forward to so much.
And we talked about it. Like,
yeah.
I listened to those episodes. We talked about, like, oh, we can't wait to see that scene.
Exactly.
We can't wait to see that scene with those actors.
Yeah.
They're going to kill it.
And not only did they it's not that they fumbled it or they messed it up. It wasn't in the fucking series. It wasn't in the episode.
Nope.
Like, it's pivotal and it is huge.
Literally.
Not there.
Probably the most important scene in the entire book.
Yeah.
Like, it is the summation of, it is the stand. It is the titular stand.
Right. Yeah.
It is frustrating.
It's an unforgivable thing.
Yeah.
The creators and showrunners and everybody, writers, everybody.
Yeah.
This is like their biggest sin.
Yep. And like I was just, I thought, like, I didn't expect it. Like, I didn't expect them to, like, okay. So when it aired, like, I got a DM from a friend of the show, Robert, in Utah. He was like, have you watched the latest episode? Because something happened and it ruined my morning. And I was like, oh my God, I can't, it's not that I can't wait, but I'm like, I'm dreading this now. And he was spot on. Like, that is absolutely right. Like,
yeah.
So let's backtrack. So
sure, yeah. Let's get there
I was
first.
expecting it. I was completely oblivious to how badly they were going to fuck up that scene. Even with that warning from Robert, who he never said anything that was spoilery or anything.
Okay.
So thank you, Robert. But like, in that like opening scene of the episode when they're having the conversation in the jail cell, like the cage, it's like an open cage thing, and I was watching that scene, I was like, oh, I mean, that it'll work. I pictured it in a jail cell, like with Lloyd, like, but I mean, Flag being there and Glenn, like it'll work. It'll be fine. Like, I was like prepping my mind for like, oh, this is where the scene is going to take place.
Yeah.
But instead, they fucking, God damn it. Okay. So, they decided to change it, which, hey, I am not a detractor of a change in an adaptation. Like, they went a different route with it. What they did with it was to make a courtroom spectacle scene, hashtag surprise courtroom drama. And, that just set up the, like, Glenn's scene where Glenn's demise. It set it up to fail spectacularly because it was just a fucking, like, Lloyd Henry's Netflix stand-up special for 5 minutes and then executing Glenn. Like, God damn it. Okay.
It was so bad.
Yeah. How did you feel about it? And then I'll scream for a little while.
So it's funny because I was so optimistic going in, and then that scene started, and Glenn started doing his thing, and I was like, okay, this could be really cool because it could be the thing where Glenn works him up over the cameras, and then Flag comes storming in.
That would have been
and this all happens in front of everybody, and he completely blows. I was like, this could even be better than the book. Oh, how wrong past Tiny was.
Yes.
Oh, how wrong. Hath the mighty fallen, or whatever.
Right.
No, that's not at all what they did. Glenn Bateman was having his showdown with a goddamn camera.
Yes.
And it lost all of its effectiveness.
Absolutely.
And just the dejection that Lloyd Henry is supposed to feel. They tried to make it happen. They tried to do it, and I guess they succeeded, but not at all in the way they should have.
Right.
Like the 90s series, I can't remember the actor's name who plays him.
Miguel Ferreira,
something like
America Ferrera? No.
Him.
Yeah.
Great character actor.
Yeah.
Does a really good job with it. You can see the dejection and the hopelessness on his face. In the book, it's even better. It's great. I love the direction that goes. Just all the pieces starting to fall apart.
Yeah.
And the pieces start to fall apart, but it's not. It's just not. It's not a house of cards. It's a poorly built brick house that's slowly falling apart. Like, it's just not. It was so ineffective.
It really was.
And again, fucking Greg Kinnear tried his damnedest with this and did what he could with what they gave him. And he was trying hard, and I don't fault him in the slightest. I don't fault Nat Wolff either, which I have major issues with his choices in this series, in this performance. But he had nothing... It could have been so much better, even with his ridiculous choices.
Right.
It could have been a really great scene.
Yeah.
If they had done it the right way.
So I've thought a lot about this. I've fumed a lot about this. I've thought a lot about it. And I've come to the conclusion that, like, I think I understand what they were going for maybe in terms of the entire depiction of Flag. And I can almost get on board with it. So, first of all, before I get into this whole spiel where my blood pressure is going to be elevated and I'm going to be screaming at you, first of all, I'm not screaming at you guys.
It's not about you,
It's
okay?
not about you.
We still love you.
Yes. But I didn't go back to check, but did you notice the banners on the side? They looked in the courtroom. Like,
no, I didn't.
They looked like slightly altered. I don't know if they couldn't get the rights to show the exact image, but it looked like
did it say RF on it?
It did, but I think the big symbol was the Eye of the Crimson King.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it looked extremely familiar, so much so that I think that they wanted to have that, but maybe like.
Well, I'm not going to go back and watch it. So.
Yeah, yep. So,
but now I'm curious. Fuck.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. So, okay. So I think what they were doing, which I can respect to an extent this depiction. What they, I think, were going for was a commentary of some kind about media presence. I think that they were trying to relate it to like the modern day political climate and misinformation, disinformation climate that we live in, where like media, communities and societies are built on everyone's perception of like the people in power that is dictated to them strictly through media and through disinformation and misinformation through media and through like a lens, essentially. So I can respect them wanting to do that. Like, I think that that's evidenced by even when they're going in at the end of the last episode, when they're going into Vegas, having the big propaganda displays of Flag speaking and everything. Like, I think that there's evidence of that, and I can respect them doing that and having having Glenn do his whole like impassioned speech and trying to wake up the audience to what's happening, and to the truth of it and everything. So I can understand on paper why they would make that change, but it is unequivocally the wrong decision to make.
Yeah.
Like, the power of the scene between Glenn and Flag in the original, in the book, the power of that scene is the way that it just completely, it is Glenn's stand. And like the characters have, like they have their individual stands up against evil in all of its forms. And this is the most pivotal and important stand that is made in the book, because it is the one, well, it's one of the ones where a character is directly interacting with Flag, and just from the outset in the book, Glenn is like, "Oh, you aren't that big of a deal. Like you're like you are who we were fretting over this whole time. Like you're nothing."
God, I love that.
It's so great. It's so perfect, and it's to his face. Like that's the power of it. And so here, he's speaking to him through a fucking camera lens, and he's appealing to the masses who are there to watch this fucking stand-up comedy routine. And it's just, it loses all impact.
Yeah.
And I had never considered the idea that Flag would come down and do that. That would have worked. That would have been great.
Yeah.
Because it would have been directly into Flag's face, and it would have been directly there. But instead, they don't do that. Like, what the fuck were they thinking?
I know.
Like, so, yeah. And it's just in his appeal to Lloyd, saying, like, you don't want to do this. Like, have you ever even killed someone before? Like you haven't, have you? Like, you don't need to do this or anything. And I'm not pleading for you. I'm pleading for you. Or I'm not pleading for me. I'm pleading for you and all that. Like, that's all good and everything. And I don't know if this was intentional, but they threw in the, I don't remember what, or I don't think I know what, it might have been Hamlet. The Shakespeare reference, like the fault is not in our stars, but it's in our hearts or whatever. I wonder if that is a like specific, reference to, cause Josh Boone directed The Fault in Our Stars.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, and then Lloyd shoots him, and fuck it. Who cares? If they don't fucking care about the characters enough to set them up. They don't care about the themes or the subtext of the text to do it effectively and everything. Instead, they want to shoehorn in some fucking lazy ass commentary on like media and everything that
very sophomoric.
Yeah. And like, the kind of thing, like, okay, I think the politics of what they're getting at here is, I don't know if they're necessarily wanting to make Flag to be like a Trumper kind of character.
Right.
Maybe that's their intention, and I understand that, and like, I mean, my politics are
sympathetic to
very sympathetic. Well said.
Right.
Very sympathetic to that and everything. But Randall Flagg is not a Trump character.
Not at all.
He's not. Like, if they wanted to do that, fucking remake The Dead Zone. Make him Greg Stilson.
Right.
Like, that's what they should have done. But to shoehorn it, because Flagg is this demon entity that is manipulative, and he's Trump, on the other hand, is someone who kind of seems like, as calculating as he might be, he also is a fucking privileged, stumbled into this fucking cult leadership role, and
he's obvious.
He's very obvious.
Right.
Very thin-skinned. It's a narcissistic personality disorder embodied. Flagg is not that. Flagg is this fucking agent of chaos. And it's just, and to shoehorn in this kind of, I don't know, 2020 view of him as an allegory for Trump is just, it doesn't work at all.
It really didn't. And it was to the point where I had to rewind a part. One of the characters, like sitting in the front row, close to Lloyd, or maybe even right next to Lloyd, is wearing like a red hat.
Oh, really?
That I had to rewind it to see if it was a MAGA hat.
Oh, God.
It's not, but I think it was a pretty blatant.
Any red baseball
imagery
cap now is that, yeah.
It's completely stigmatized.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I was just, I agree with what you said 100%. Like, I'm not even going to try to add to it, because, yeah, it was just a really ham-fisted allegory they were going for. And just not necessary.
No.
Yeah. Like, and the whole, I think she was, I don't remember the character's name, or if
like
we even know the character.
Person?
Yeah, was she also the person who was like the producer of what was going on?
I think so, and she was also like the announcer.
Yeah.
I don't know her name, unfortunately, but she is Brad Dourif's
daughter. Right, yeah. I knew that. Yeah, okay. But she that was sort of an interesting idea, but again, it just really didn't need to be there. Like you said, they were shoehorning things in that you don't need to do. It was already so great the way it was. I mean,
instead of having and that the ripples of that scene should have been. Like, they should have done the scene the way it should have been done, and then they should have had the ripples ripple out in a more subtle and effective way. But instead, like, okay, this doesn't cause... To be frank, I don't necessarily remember exactly how Lloyd ends up in the book after that, but that should have sown doubt into his mind. Like, Glenn's impassioned speech and his stand against death and everything and evil should have had a profound impact on Harold, or on Lloyd, on Lloyd. And it does when the big stand happens, the Hand of God thing, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But they manufacture drama and suspense by having it be this whole, like, oh, Flag's gonna kill me because he killed Bobby Terry for the same reason. And so I'm just gonna fucking explain it to the fucking audience blatantly in this scene with you, Brad Dourif's daughter. And so, because the fucking people writing this goddamn train wreck don't know what fucking subtext is. God damn it! It's so annoying.
It is.
Yeah. How'd you feel about the fallout of that? And then we can talk about Nadine's death.
Yeah. It's whatever. Yeah. It definitely did not have the weight that it should have. I mean, because they completely fumbled it, and. Yeah. Yeah, it was just so many failures. It was a bit of a domino effect for Lloyd especially, and for Randall Flagg. It just their comeuppance is so unsatisfactory because of the loss of that scene and the
absolutely and the death of Nadine. I thought that was creepy, and it was.
I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was well done.
Yeah,
I don't know why I don't necessarily know why the show needed, like, maybe they didn't have the budget for, like, stunts or anything, but, like, they do this weird, like, slow motion, like, fall scene with both Nadine and Harold in the last episode. It's like, it feels like they don't, it just feels a little bit too, like, hokey to me. I don't know.
Okay. It didn't bother me.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then also I don't even really remember the stuff with Larry and Ray, but they bring Nadine's head to him, and I like that. Like, that's kind of one of his stands, and is where he's like, well, like, you're doing this to me, but you don't understand why you're doing this to me, or why he's having you do this to me.
Yeah, and
it's like picking apart of that. I kind of like that, but other than that,
my only issue with the whole Nadine's death scene was in the book, and then in the 90s series, I think her choice to kill herself was much more calculated.
Yeah, because in the 90s series, she's like, I'm getting rid of it. Like, you're not going to have a son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was much more of a stand.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, it was like she's being tortured to death by her pregnancy, and it was still disturbing and kind of cool, but it's not in keeping with the character.
I agree.
And was a little less effective for that reason. But the whole, like, using the rock to break the window and then jumping out, and then we actually see her body impact. I was like, oh, cool. Shit, okay. Yeah. And she falls through that window, lands in the pool. That's just it was kind of a kind of convenient, I guess. Like, you could sort of criticize it for being too picturesque or whatever, but I thought it was just kind of cool. I mean,
I agree.
I kind of liked that part.
It was pretty it was poetic, I think.
Poetic, that's a good way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, and so let's talk about the stand.
Let's do it.
The big moment.
Mm-hmm.
For all of the visual effects issues that I've had throughout it, I kind of feel like they allocated all of their budget into that scene, and I honestly fucking think it worked like gangbusters.
It was very good, yeah.
Very cool. But first, let's talk about Larry and Ray being taken into the empty pool where the fight pit thing. And so Okay, I'm not a religious person, so I don't know if this has any kind of religious subtext to it or religious kind of imagery to it, but instead of having them on crucifixes outside in Vegas, they have they cuff them to the bottom of this pool and they drown them because they need to drown the rats and then burn them or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that choice. How did you feel about that choice and the change of the book?
In the moment I was very indifferent to it because I was so dejected by what had just happened. But I think I'm still just kind of indifferent to it. I don't have a big issue with it. I did prefer the set piece at the end of the 90s miniseries where they're about to be crucified and all that. I think that was preferential just in that microcosm of this last conflict. I preferred that a little bit, but I guess it was kind of cool. I guess the whole chaining him up and drowning him thing was just interesting violence. I guess I didn't have a big issue with it, frankly.
Yeah, I honestly the kind of I guess, I don't know if it would be a motif or whatever, but the kind of theme of rats and everything, like, that's fine. Like, I kind of understand that and everything, and that's okay. But I kind of wonder, and this is purely conjecture on my part, but I wonder if maybe CBS didn't wanted them to downplay the religious crucifixion stuff.
Oh.
And I have no basis for that, except for maybe because CBS has more of an elderly, viewership, maybe?
Maybe
they're inherently more religious and would be more offended by it. I don't know, maybe, but...
Who knows?
That's probably incorrect. But, but I feel like, I don't know if it was something higher ups at CBS were like, oh, let's not crucify people.
Yeah.
Which... If that's the case, if that's the reason why they avoided that, the reason why I'm saying that, the reason why I'm what's the word I'm looking for? Not stimulating it, though speculating. The reason I'm speculating that is because I just genuinely don't understand why they would avoid doing that. Like, because at its heart, well, I don't understand why they would avoid doing that, except for that they clearly don't have a fucking care in the world about the actual book, or they don't fucking know how to write subtext. But the entire book as a whole is a battle of good and evil, with good being like people that are following the voice of God, essentially, and the bad side following the voice of evil. And it's about evil and good and evil meeting and standing up to one another, and figuring out who comes out on top. like it is a tale of religious proportions, biblical proportions, and I think it loses so much of that by having this very kind of elementary set of them confined to a pool and being drowned with no religious subtext that I can detect. If I'm wrong, correct me, please, because I would like to appreciate that more, but I don't know. So that kind of bothered me.
Okay.
But the actual stand, okay, Trash Can Man, fine, whatever. Ezra Miller, okay.
Yeah.
Just whatever. Mm-hmm. But the actual hand of God, the bomb being set off and everything, I love the visuals of the kind of the cloud coming down. It very much reminded me of The Mist, which I love that.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know what else. The
ball of light sort of thing.
Yes. But before that, one of the coolest images that I thought, like, one of the most stunning images was that wide shot of the exterior of the casino with the giant screen projecting Randall Flagg's face, because he's in there. They're broadcasting it, and like he's looking up in the casino at the cloud descending into the room, and like in that exterior shot, you just see him looking up at the big cloud outside, and it looked just really cool to me.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyway,
we kind of skipped over the part right before that where they had like a little dance party.
Oh yeah.
Fucking why? What the fuck? It's just so tone deaf.
It really really
it's
was.
like they were like having a dance party to a Katy Perry song.
Yeah.
While they were gonna watch these two people drown to death.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I don't understand that thinking at all. What the fuck?
I want to find what that song was because it's on the soundtrack.
It's forever ruined for me, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it. I don't know. It's so.
It's basically like "Baby, You're a Firework." That's what it felt like.
It definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, I have it. I think here soon. No, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Where is it? Oh, yeah. Okay. It's by U96, and it's called Heaven, and it's like this. I don't know if it's a remix or it's a sample of
Welcome to Heaven. Okay, sorry, I had to do it. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
A remix or sample of whatever that song is. This could be Heaven or whatever. Fuck. Yeah, it keeps saying it feels like it's in heaven, but it's at the beat of oh god, what is that song? It's a song that played at the end of San Junipero on Black Mirror, so find it. I don't know why I can't think of it. But anyway, Heaven is a Place on Earth, maybe?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah, so anyway.
Just totally kind of took me out of the moment. I was like, what the fuck? But then, yeah, when they came to the actual, the hand of God and the ball of light, I thought that was pretty cool. The violence of it was kind of cool. I thought the whole, when Lloyd got just like completely smacked in the face
that
by
was
that
pretty
falling sign.
cool.
I kind of laughed. I was like, that's a little dumb, but all right.
Yeah.
I'm along for the ride with that.
Yep. You just described 8 years of podcasting with me. It's kind of dumb, but I'm along for the ride.
It's not at all what I was going for. Oh my god. Oh shit.
But yeah, I agree. It was cool. The parting thought for the stand for this episode is that Brad William Henke, first, one of the last scenes is him appearing, like Tom Cullen appearing to help Stu. But something that was excised from the book is that in the book, Nick comes to Tom in kind of a ghost form in his dreams to help him heal Stu and help them get on their feet.
Yeah.
And Brad William Henke tweeted and said, oh, we shot that scene, and it was awesome, but it was supposed to be in last week's episode, referring to The Walk, I think.
Okay.
And for some reason they cut it. So, yeah, so that's just a bummer.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, okay, any parting thoughts on The Stand, or shall we wrap this up with a review of The Circle Closes?
Let's wrap it up.
Okay, so last time on the podcast, I mentioned that the title of the final episode was going to be Coda, Franny, and the Well. That was before it aired, so it's not the title of it. The title is, it's episode 9, The Circle Closes, and we are going to review it.
God is cruel then.
Job said the same. And God spoke to him out of the whirlwind and he said, "Were you here when I made the world?" God said, "The wheel keeps turning. The struggle continues. But the command is always the same. Be true. Stand."
Okay, so The Circle Closes aired on February 11th, 2021, and the plot is, after seeing both the light and the dark, Franny makes her stand. So this episode is written by Stephen King, and it is essentially, from what I understand, it is an idea that he has had in his head for years, that he now finally has had the opportunity to write this alternate or extended ending to the Stand, and frankly, finally do kind of justice to Fran Goldsmith as a character. There is an article, I haven't read it entirely, but it's on Polygon. It's from one of the co-hosts of the Kingcast. I think Eric Vespi wrote it, where he talks about why it's the best ending for it. So this whole episode is an aftermath of The Stand. Franny and Stu go to Maine, and they have a little adventure along the way. Mm-hmm. So, Tiny, overall thoughts on The Circle Closes?
I ended up liking it. I really didn't know what to expect with the 9th episode, especially the way episode 8 ended. Mm-hmm. I was kind of looking forward to it because it was the denouement, if you will.
Yeah.
I didn't think they were going to do a full episode of, Tom and Stu trying to recover and all that stuff, which in the book, I love it. It's fantastic. We spoke about it. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't expecting it for the show, and I'm not sure I would have liked that in the show.
Yeah, I agree.
So I was very curious what they had in mind, and I ended up really liking it. It is good. I hadn't thought about it till you just kind of said that, but it is nice. It is a good justification or conclusion for Fran Goldsmith.
Yeah.
One of the most pivotal characters didn't really get to make her stand.
Right.
And this sort of rectifies that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Nice. I agree. And so this episode, I think, has a lot of strengths to it. Mm-hmm. I think that it is a very fitting ending to the story. But I again, like I said with on one of the previous episodes, one episode's strengths does not fix what comes before it. So
definitely too little, too late.
Absolutely,
yeah.
And I think that King writing this is a very kind of cathartic experience for the viewer who loves the Stand book. Like this is this is a strong ending. This would have been a strong ending for something that was stronger before it. Like, at some point, my brain kind of didn't recontextualize it, but kind of thought like, okay, maybe this is more just the ending of the book. Like, this is, like, because I don't have any attachment to the fucking characters in the miniseries because they didn't do enough for the miniseries. For the characters in the miniseries. So maybe this is just my viewing of this is, revisiting the characters of the book. Having said that, there are some. First of all, there's a little bit of Dark Tower stuff in there, which I really appreciated.
Yeah.
So there is the number 19 pops up on a walkie-talkie display, and they talk about the world being a wheel, which. I posted on my personal Facebook and said like, oh hey, just a big long thing about this episode, and one of my friends from the IFJs was like, hey, what are the Dark Tower references? Because he didn't watch the series, and I was like, oh, and he likes the Dark Tower. I was like, oh, it's this, and then they keep saying the world is a wheel or time's a wheel or whatever, and I'm desperately like isolating that audio, and I'm gonna work on dubbing it in my best Odessa Young or I almost called him John Marston from Red Dead Redemption. Oh my god, what is his name? James Marston. Impression to say "ka" is a wheel. But anyway, so I like that. But something that something I really, really kind of found myself digging a lot was Fran's stand, like her choice, like like it says in the description. After seeing both the light and the dark, Franny makes her stand. She has a situation comes up. She falls down a well, and she has a vision of Flag and a vision of Mother Abigail. So, how did you feel about these two sequences in the episode?
Yeah, it was really cool. Conceptually, I actually really liked it. I think it was a little rushed, and it would have been interesting to see it at a different part in the series. Because, the big conclusion's over, right? And it's just not as satisfying. But it was still really cool. The whole, she's in a well, and she's, severely injured and gonna die, and the temptation from the dark side was really cool. I think credit to Alexander Skarsgård. I think he had the whole kind of slick slick used car salesman kind of thing
Yes.
going on, and he's got his shirt unbuttoned and stuff. He's all hot and everything, and
I adored his performance in this episode.
Yeah.
I honestly did.
at least that part.
Yeah.
So kind of a cool concept.
Nice.
Yeah.
I agree. I really was kind of taken with this, and I've got to geek out about, or I've got to posit something about this scene with Fran and Flag. Maybe my favorite scene in the episode, because it is just, it's so slick and so well written. The dialogue that Flag says, and it's playing up this like, oh, I don't know if you have like a severe head trauma or he's putting in these thoughts. It's like he's trying to manipulate her. But the thing I want to geek out about it and kind of want to posit to everyone here, Steve, if you're listening, let us know. But the temptation that he gives her says that like, I'll fix you and I'll like everything will be perfect. You just need to give me a kiss. I don't know if that has any kind of religious allegory to it. Do you know?
I don't know. Kind of like kiss the ring kind of thing.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Like I was thinking like Eve being tempted.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Like I don't know if the act of kissing the devil is something that is in I almost said fiction, in religion.
I'm not sure.
If it's not, I kind of dig it a lot because it seems, I don't know if this is Stephen King's intention, but it's like it is a direct mirror to an episode of Lost. If you remember in season 1 of Lost, there's a whole episode where a character is having an asthma attack, and they think that the bad boy of the island, Sawyer, is stockpiling all the medicine, and he has her asthma medicine. So after being interrogated and tortured, he tells the character of Kate that he'll answer the questions. All she has to do is give him a kiss.
Yeah.
And it's like this scene in The Stand is like exactly like that to an extent. Even the setting, they're in like a jungle
Exactly,
setting.
yeah.
And so like I don't know if Stephen King had this idea for this specific scene in his head because he was a big fan of Lost, and maybe that's rattled around in his brain for all these years, or if there's some other deeper like religious thing that both Lost and this iteration of The Stand used for this kind of scene. But they're so similar that I don't know, I was into it.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely was too. Yeah,
Nice.
that's good.
Nice. And then her vision of Mother Abigail was fine.
Yeah, it was nice. It was more in keeping with the book and the whole. It was a much more. No offense to Whoopi Goldberg, but a much more Ruby Dee moment where she's kind of like, oh hey sweetheart, how are you?
Right.
Hang in there, you'll be fine, and that kind of.
You'll
thing.
have 5 children.
Right.
Like, in my head, I'm like, oh god, the fucking nightmare.
Ouch.
And you'll have 5 children. God, what a fucking nightmare. Hey, congratulations on Tiny.
Right.
But no, I like that, and so this episode is an interesting coda to the story in that it shows that what I appreciate about it is that it shows that the stand that they made didn't end all good and evil. It didn't end this cycle of good and evil.
Right.
So we see that like now, I mean, like the avatars of good and evil, Mother Abigail and Randall Flagg, still exist in the world. Like Flagg is reincarnated, or he comes back at the end, and Mother Abigail is like her spirit is in this little child in the woods or in the cornfield.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about that?
Yeah, that was okay. It was a little clumsy, I'll say.
Yeah.
pretty cool scene where she like heals her and stuff.
I had such a problem, like not such a problem, but like I
mean,
thought
she ran the fuck out of that winch. I mean, did a great job with that.
Oh yeah, well when you got a winch like that and you gotta do the torque and the motor
specs on the inline for the rotary girder.
A word that we don't use anymore. Tommy Boy, one of my favorite movies. Anyway,
great one.
Yeah, so. But when she actually heals her, like just the visual effect of that just seemed like real. It's like they ran up the footage. It looked hokey.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to nitpick that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It was cool in theory. I liked the idea that she is like the spirit of Mother Abigail is now in this child, and suddenly she has healing abilities. It kind of seemed a little weird.
Yeah.
But overall, I like the message. Like it was a little bit of it was actual subtext in The Stand to an extent, more so than we saw before.
Some actual nice character work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I've got to say, so that montage of their road trip. First of all, it's scored by another just excellent music drop in this miniseries. The song is called San Luis, and it's by a name I'm going to mispronounce, Gregory Alan Isakov. Very good song. It was very good and true to it, to the nature of it. But something about the way that it showed them arriving at that Nebraska like farmhouse, something about there was this cleansing kind of air about it. Like it felt both this scene, that montage, and the montage of the four people walking to Vegas, like that, just big landscapes of just America, essentially, just really kind of demonstrates to me just how great Stephen King is as a writer of writing. I don't want to say like modern American folklore, because I don't think that's the right word, but having an embodiment of like flyover states and like America and Americana. Which is one of the reasons why I think I've said on the podcast before. One of the reasons why I've definitely tweeted this. One of the reasons why I think it's ridiculous whenever someone's like, "Oh, Stephen King." I've seen some people say like Stephen King is a liberal elite and everything. It's like okay. I mean, he's spent 4 fucking decades writing about like middle America and the working class American archetype.
Right. Yeah.
Like, settle down. A
lot of his characters are conservative.
Yeah.
And they're good characters, like they're protagonists.
Right.
Right.
Snowflakes. Anyway. So yeah, what else can we talk about in this episode?
Yeah, I don't know really. Yeah, I think this was also the shortest episode.
Somewhat, I think.
I think it was only like 48 minutes or something like that. Unless I'm wrong, I might have been misremembering, but
I know the previous episode was like 48 minutes.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think this one, it ran like 50 some.
Okay.
I think. Let me check. No, it was like
49.
Oh, 49. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So it was good.
I don't know.
I saw someone tweet this, and I don't know who exactly it was, but they said that it would be neat if if like a new edition of the Stand book was printed, and they just included as a bonus in it, they included like the teleplay of this episode.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I thought that would be neat.
Yeah.
So okay. We're almost. Oh my god, we're actually almost like on time.
Yeah.
So parting thoughts on The Circle Closes.
Yeah. I think it was a fun little character study and character development for nice comeuppance for Franny. It wasn't really even in the book or anything.
Yeah.
Just kind of nice. And I didn't really know what to expect. I guess I didn't react to it as positively in the moment. Not that I disliked it, but I guess all the nuance didn't settle with me till later on. So yeah. But it was kind of a nice denouement after the main climax, you know.
I agree. And another thing, one of the early scenes. Oh, I forgot something. Okay, 2 things. Boulder scenes at the beginning of the episode. There is a cameo from Mick Garris.
Oh, really?
He's the guy with the long white hair.
Okay.
In the kind of barbecue scene.
Gotcha. All right.
And then also, I thought it was really touching, that scene with them sending off Stu and Fran.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly Brad William Henke, another MVP.
Yeah.
With what little he's given in the show.
Right.
He did a phenomenal job. And that was a really touching scene. I think I saw a tweet or something where he said that was actually the first scene that he shot for the show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he really wanted to honor like the character of Tom Cullen in that moment.
Nice.
And I think he did a good job. We also didn't talk about the baby and me about to sneeze on the mic. Okay, false alarm. And the kind of the Captain Tripp scare and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fine. It was cool.
Yeah, and her kind of montage at the beginning, where she sort of has the voiceover thing.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like that.
Me too. Again, that music cue in the soundtrack, it's called Franny Writing. One of the most beautiful like scores of a Stephen King property, in my opinion.
Totally. Yeah, I liked that part. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I thought that this episode overall was pretty good. A good end to an abysmal adaptation.
Yeah.
But it was a strong finish, and yeah, it was fine. Parting thoughts on the Stand 2020 miniseries.
I think it's a pretty big disappointment, really, and I hate to say that, because there's plenty of things that I would point to that I liked about this, but I think just as a whole, the structural issues and the organization and the chronology and the character work and lack thereof was just such a huge mistake.
Absolutely.
and just so poorly done on so many levels, that all the positive things really got lost in the shuffle.
Absolutely.
And I don't think I ever foresee myself watching this again.
Me neither, honestly.
Which is such a shame, because I think I could see myself watching the 90s miniseries for a third or fourth time.
Yeah.
Because it serves its purpose, and it's kind of enjoyable, and you can get past some things, and the negative things about that series don't detract from the overall vision of it the way that this one does.
Yeah.
And I think this one was really, I hate to say it, but I think it was a failure. I think they failed.
Yeah.
Because I know next time I see my parents, because my parents are big Stephen King fans, they love The Stand. My mom loves The Stand.
Nice.
They're going to ask me, should we watch it? And I'm going to be like, I'm going to tell them yes. That maybe they'll get something out of it that I didn't, but I'm going to say it's my least of the three versions of this story. It is my least favorite.
Yeah, same here. Unequivocally, like worst interpretation of this.
And I had such high hopes.
Me too. I really did too. And overall, I think that it was misstep after misstep after misstep.
Yeah.
And what worked in it, like, were fleeting moments of enjoyment through the miniseries.
Yeah.
Again, it just lacked character development. It lacked storytelling. Like, it lacked a sinewy storytelling connective tissue.
Yes.
Like, so much stuff happens in this sprawling story that is just, it isn't even touched on in the adaptation. And that's fine. I understand they have to make cuts. I understand that they can't show everything in a 1,000-page book. Like, it's impossible. But what they do instead is, instead of actually creating the characters and giving them a through line and arcs that are satisfying, they hit different points. It's like they took the outline of the book and kind of just ignored, like, the subtext of everything going on and just hit the broad points. And it's those early episodes where they just did that all out of order, non-linear thing. As it went on, it felt like they were using that as an excuse not to actually develop the characters. Like, okay, we'll see where the characters are now, and then we'll just show them just in a flashback, because we don't really need to give them that much context for that. We'll just show what they were like beforehand, and it'll all filter out. And it doesn't. It just, none of it does. And I don't know. It's such a, like, to agree with you, it's a disappointment. And I really think that this was just a shit heap of an adaptation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Yeah, so as I said before, coming up soon, we're going to talk about our top 19 Stephen King adaptations. As a preview to that, Tiny, is this going to make your top 19?
Not even close.
No.
And I forgot to mention episode 7 and 8, I had to watch ads again.
Really?
Yeah.
God
but
damn it.
9 I didn't.
Ugh.
I
Wow.
don't get it. Yeah. Weird.
Well, hopefully when CBS All Access becomes Paramount Plus in a couple of weeks, that'll... Who cares?
They ain't getting my money no more.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, we are done.
We are.
We're finally done with The Stand. Not that, I mean, this was a great experience. I really liked discussing and dissecting The Stand with you. Final thing for this episode. For old time's sake, how about a COVID check-in? How are you doing in the pandemic? I saw that your mom got her first dose of the vaccine.
Yep.
Nice. My mom gets hers in a couple of weeks.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about your dad? Has he gotten his?
He got his first.
Nice.
Yeah, he got his like a week or two ago. So.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I'm still doing good with it.
Nice.
Wearing my mask pretty diligently, and I have not caught COVID.
Lucky.
Yeah. I count myself lucky. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Not much else to report, really.
Yeah, me neither. I haven't caught it again. And so that's fine. Yeah, so whatever. All my after effects are gone, so I'm back to normal.
That's good.
Yeah, so, okay. Well, hopefully this will die out and we'll be good.
Yeah.
To our listeners, thank you guys for joining us on this, 8-episode 9 or 10 month journey through The Stand. We're gonna come back to our regularly scheduled programming. Hopefully more consistent. We'll see. But yeah, coming up next, we've got a lot of stuff that I talked about at the top of the episode. Find more of our content at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Access to exclusive RSS feed, all that stuff. And also you can buy masks and other merch at tinyurl.com/ovmasks. And just find our TeePublic store. teepublic.com, teepublic.com. Just type in Obsessive Viewer or Tower Junkies and you'll find us. Thank you to Mo_Velma. I mentioned in a previous episode that someone bought a mask and a shirt and a sticker or something. No, a magnet, I think. And it was Mo Vielma. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So thank you so much for supporting us. And she posted on Instagram a picture of her wearing the shirt, and
that's awesome.
It's so awesome because I was just like, that's just neat. People wearing our merch.
Pretty surreal.
Yep. So, all right. Well, thank you guys. And I think that'll do it for this episode of Tower Junkies. Mm-hmm. Next time we'll do something. We'll, just subscribe. Yeah. So, without further ado, thank you guys so much for listening. Long days and pleasant nights.
And may you have twice the number.
Yes. And now, here's a short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. To hear the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. So you told me that you have names. You're not going to announce the names.
No, we're going to wait till whoever it is comes along.
Okay. Whatever the thing ends up being.
Yeah, whether it has 8 legs that come out of its head and it crawls across the floor.
Oh, God. Hey, perfect name. Mordred Ramian.
Oh, my God, Mordred. The eye roll I would get from my wife for even bringing that up.
I was kind of thinking about that. I was thinking about you and your wife and naming your baby. Not really, but...
Tower Junkies is edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. For a full archive of our episodes, go to TowerJunkiesPod.com/archive. You can also like our Facebook page at Facebook.com/TowerJunkiesPod and follow us on Twitter at TowerJunkiesPod. If you enjoy the show, please take a couple minutes to leave us a rating and a quick review on Apple Podcasts. This is the easiest way to support what we do, and all it costs is just a little bit of your time. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can make a PayPal donation at TowerJunkiesPod.com/donate Or support us on Patreon for recurring donations and access to commentary tracks and B-roll audio recorded exclusively for patrons at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. For official Obsessive Viewer merch, including shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more, visit our TeePublic store. You can find a link to the store in the show notes of this episode and at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. Or you can simply search for Obsessive Viewer at tpublic.com. For information about our annual live event showcasing short horror films from local filmmakers, check out shocktoberinirvington.com. And for an archive of all our events, as well as news about potential future events, head over to obsessiveviewer.com/live. For more podcast content, you can find our flagship movie and TV review and discussion show, The Obsessive Viewer Podcast, at obsessiveviewer.com and on Twitter at obsessiveviewer. You can also find Anthology, Matt's solo podcast covering The Twilight Zone, and other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology TV shows at anthologypod.com and OV Anthology Pod on Twitter. And finally, check out The Secular Perspective, Tiny's side project podcast, which tackles current events and life's big questions from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda at thesecularperspective.com. Music for the podcast is provided with permission from Fingers T on YouTube. Additional bumper music is provided courtesy of As Good As It Gets, which can be found at facebook.com/asgoodasitgetsband. Thank you so much for listening. Long days and pleasant nights.
Kitty!
My name is Russell Faraday. Worship me!